does that sound? What does that sound?
That's not The Weeknd.
It's not the sound of The Weeknd. That is the sound of... Was there any music playing while I was dancing there?
There wasn't at that point, but
There
we'll
wasn't
fix it
at
in post.
that point? Okay,
We'll
we
fix it
can
in
hear it.
post.
We can fix it in post. That's the sound of hashtag Daily Crowder. However that works, coming at you. YouTube, Facebook, gosh, sorry we had some technical difficulties. We are glad to be with you, though. Man, what a long year, what a long process it has been. For those watching right now, let me tell you, louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. You can start your free trial today. Today we have Gary Sinise, Shaun King. Tomorrow, Dennis Miller. More guests to come throughout the week. Thursday show is always free. Tonight we're doing this stream for you so you can get a taste, a little bit of a taste of Daily Crowder for free on a Monday, YouTube and Facebook. But from here on out, once a week you can get. But if you want to support the Daily Show, you got to join the Mug Club. So you can do that 7-day free trial, louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. Plus you get Mark Levin and Mark Stein and Michelle Malkin, and it's good stuff. Isn't that right, Naka Jared?
It's very good stuff.
Good stuff.
We are finally here. Finally here.
We're
Long
finally
awaited.
here. You can see this whole new studio. I have a new MacBook, which, by the way, keeps asking me for a password every time I go in. So a lot has happened in the news since we last spoke. Let's talk about this first. We'll get to Meryl Streep and Shaun King in a second. So really everything else is we just have to kind of skim along in order to get to Meryl Streep. Russian hacking, that was a big thing. We'll have the Russian hacker actually on tomorrow's show alongside Dennis Miller.
Wow, let's catch.
The Intel report came out this week, finally, and this is what the left was waiting for. They were really upset about this anti-patriotism. People in the right apparently in Russia's pocket. No new info. No new info at all that came out. There is nothing that ties the Russian hacking to tampering with the election, certainly not voter machines, none of it, 0%. As a matter of fact, here's some things that we do know. John Podesta received a phishing... Here's the problem. Democrats, I get it. Listen, if Russia tampered with the United States election, yeah, I have a problem with it. I'm not a huge fan of Putin either. Anyone who... And listen, if you're a conservative out there, you probably shouldn't be yourself, right? You can't be mad at Justin Trudeau for wanting to jail people for hate speech, wanting to ban it, and then be cool with Putin, who jails dissidents and people who are his political enemies. Have a problem with that. I understand he's looking out for the interest of the Russian people. Not a huge fan of Putin. Don't want him tampering with the election. However, Democrats have been dumbasses. The DNC have been a giant wallowing gaggle. I don't know what kind of terminology we can use here. A school of dumbasses. What are dumbasses? Is it school? Flock?
School? Flock? Maybe a herd.
Maybe a herd
Maybe
of
a herd.
dumbasses? Like gallimimuses?
Yeah. I'm going to go with herd.
They do travel in packs. So here's some things that we do know. John Podesta received a phishing email telling him he needed to reset his password. DNC staffers incorrectly told him that email was legitimate. He responded to the email to reset his password. This is like my grandmother who has her office set up just for forwarding. Where she sets it, she's like, and here's a picture of prairie dog's testicles. Thank you for sending that from your old Yahoo account. But I didn't need to see that. And then there's a claim by Assange, which we don't know if it's true or not, that his password was password. We don't know if that's true or not. I can't verify. But the first two things are true. Phishing email. Also, I think he needs to send his fortune over to a Nubian prince. Zimbabwe. What was that used to be? Was it
Nigerian.
Nigerian.
It's always
prince.
Nigerian.
Watch it, Jordan. See what happens when we let him here on the mic?
It's got ugly fast.
Jerusalem attacks happened, but that's no surprise. So people don't want to talk about that. Here's one thing people are getting mad about. This wasn't really an act of terror. It was an act of war because they did attack soldiers, which is a rarity. So good on you, Palestine. You didn't just stab people at a mall because they spoke a little bit of Hebrew. But Israel has offered a two-state solution. Look at the Hamas charter. They will not accept a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution, one where there are no Jews. This is why this will continue to happen. And we send out we sent out our Secretary of State who admonishes the state of Israel. I know where you line up. I don't want American soldiers going off and dying for Israel. I understand what you're talking about, but there's one place in that entire cesspool of filth and sadness in not in the United States, outside of the United States, in that sphincter of the world, we can say that, right?
I think sphincter.
If God were to give the world an enema, he'd put the hose in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And there's one place there where you can be Muslim and not be persecuted, where you can be a woman and actually have a trial for rape fairly, and that's in Israel. And so when it comes to that, and they start getting stabby, Hamas, with the Jews, because maybe a nose is a little too long, that's the only reason. I have a problem with it. Okay, let's get to the Meryl Streep. So we had to just cover the news. Meryl Streep, this is the real story today. Meryl Streep went up at the Golden Globe. Was it Golden Globes? There's so many. Hollywood Foreign Press's Golden Globes. That's right. And she gave this speech. Now, first, let me set the table for you why this really matters, because this is kind of a perfect crystallization of the era of Trump, is Meryl Streep's speech, namely that it is predicated entirely on a lie. See if you can spot the lie. Roll clip.
So Hollywood is crawling with outsiders and foreigners. And if we kick them all out, you'll have nothing to watch but football and mixed martial arts, which are not the arts.
First off, how arrogant can you be? Which are not the arts. All right. Let's get to why Meryl Streep sucks in a second. First off, no one wants to kick out foreigners. My mom is. Have you heard of my mother? Not gay, Jared. You've heard.
I have.
Everyone here has heard of my mother. She speaks with the accent, sounds like Georges St. Pierre. Okay, love her to death. She's a first-generation immigrant. Learned the language, right? She favored Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. No one wants to kick out foreigners, so that's the lie, right? But see, again, this is what happens. Same reason that Black Lives Matter can kill cops. Same reason that these Black Lives Matter activists feel okay kidnapping a special needs white person and scalping him. Why? Because you vilify your opposition. If you say, well, they hate foreigners. Well, nobody likes somebody who just hates foreigners. Nobody likes someone who's simply a racist, who hates people because they're brown, right? Well, those people are subhuman, so now you can treat them subhumanely. So Meryl Streep will then go on to talk about violence and respect when she just vilified an entire half of the country as racist, xenophobic, pick-your-phobic of the day. Then she says mixed martial arts. Am I the one who found that remarkably curious?
I laughed so hard. I'm like, she clearly has no clue what she's talking about. Never seen the sport.
She probably did a Google search to see what ended with arts so that she can attack it.
Do we have the Hugh Laurie bit? I don't think we do. She stole her exact joke from Hugh Laurie. If you're going to pick a sport to vilify, along with all the people who you disagree, don't pick the single most international sport there is. I mean, I guess outside of soccer, if you want to talk about gay guys with pink jerseys and man buns. But out of the champions, I think there are either 8 or 9 or 10 champions in the UFC.
Yeah.
More than half of them.
Let's roll it.
Let's roll it. What do we have? We have Amanda Nunes, lesbian Portuguese, Irishman, black, kind of black, Englishman, so we got Tyron Woodley, black, Daniel Cormier, black, Jose Aldo, Brazilian, Conor McGregor, Irish, Michael Bisping, Englishman, Amanda Nunes, lesbian, Brazilian, angry lesbian Brazilian.
Yeah, Lord. Oof.
You know, Meryl Streep wants to curry favor with the progressive crowd. I guarantee you, Brazilians do not take this lying down. She's got to fight for Meryl Streep, who's talk bullshit about me, and to fight. This is my arch. Your arch bad. Your arch, you do deaf, becomes a bad arch. Meryl Streep. So anyway, she did this. She goes on to, let's roll the next clip about the principled press.
Okay, this brings me to the press. We need the principled press to hold power to account, to call them on the carpet for every outrage.
The principled press. I don't know if she's talking about the Hollywood foreign press here or just the press in general. Are we talking about Brian Williams, who lied about the copter ride? Are we talking about Dan Rather, who took part in forging documents? What principled press are we talking about? Are we talking about Walter Cronkite, who said you can't be a journalist and not be a liberal? What kind of principled press? The press that agrees with you? Otherwise, they want to kick out foreigners? So this is what they want to set up, right? Anyone who disagrees with them is fake news, and the principled press. By the way, isn't it funny? Isn't this funny where we're all worried about patriotism now, right, in the era of Russia? If you want Russia to hack the United States election, you're not a patriot, right? You don't want foreign outside influence. The Hollywood foreign press? How much worse could it get? Outside of the fact that you can bribe them, as seen by giving nominations to The Tourist or whatever it is, whatever the newest Johnny Depp fiasco is when he's not beating the hell out of women in the back room in his trailer. I said vegan. All of a sudden, someone comes in with a black eye. They have to talk about how Captain Jack Sparrow got the wrong kind of spiced rum. It's a story they have to tell on set with Johnny Depp. My point is he's an ass. The Hollywood foreign press. Is there anything more influential than the media, than the entertainment industry, than Hollywood in the United States? And she's sitting there talking about how the Hollywood foreign press is beautiful and principled. I think we have, after this, right, yeah, that's right. But after when she said the whole thing about principled press, I threw up all over my own lap and forgot who I was for a second. So I can't really go entirely into more there. With Donald Trump, his responses are quick. Now, it was pretty predictable. Can anyone guess what he said about her?
I'm going to guess it was very not nice.
She's overrated.
It was very not nice. Ding,
She's
ding.
not good.
Yeah. Do we have
She's
that
terrible.
interview where he responded that he thought Meryl Streep was overrated? Do we have that? Yeah, here we go. He talked about how Meryl Streep, one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood. Now, I will grant you this. Donald Trump overuses the term overrated. I'll give you that. He said it about Seinfeld. He said it about Meryl Streep. I think he said it about Arnold. He said it about Hillary Clinton. He pretty much says it about everyone he doesn't like. I'll give you that. He's not a man with a very diverse vocabulary. Okay? But allow me to presuppose this here. What if Meryl Streep is simply overrated? Now, I've been saying it for years. I know now Donald Trump's going to make it okay and cool to say it, but for those of you who doubt it and need videographic evidence, I present to you Exhibit A. Meryl Streep's overrated.
That's exactly the sort of thing that I'm very interested in learning how to do.
There's a fire within my soul.
You bastard!
Oh! Mary!
This is the best and brightest that Hollywood has to offer. Listen, I know I've always been in the minority here. I'm glad, because every girl you've dated, if you dated a girl anywhere in that sort of mid-2000 range, The Devil Wears Prada was their film. Yeah. And back then it was just two people. I was like, Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep. I don't know if I can take 2.5 hours of that.
By the way, did you catch Vince Vaughn's reaction? That was
Let's
too.
get that. I want to have that on a loop. Just here, Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson. Look at their face.
That's a playing video right now.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn, just nothing.
Mel Gibson, he's running his voicemails through. Said, "Look at that form-fitting dress that you're wearing. You deserve to get taken advantage of." Vince Vaughn, by the way, for those of you who don't know, he was actually a guy. He was a big fan of Donald Trump. He's a libertarian. He's well known. He's a big fan. Not a huge supporter of the unions in Chicago, right? Because they go in there, they make some bad decisions. So Vince Vaughn, well-known conservative. Mel Gibson, well-known psychopath, also known to not be a huge Meryl Streep fan. This is everything that's self-important about Hollywood. Something else too is their stance on guns and suppressors. We'll talk about that after the break. I know you're thinking silencers, suppressors. Shut up. We'll explain.
Subscribe to my club if you don't want to fight. I punch and kick your face for 7-day free trial. And with the Mark Club, drink coffees and cheese. For cheese like black cheese or green cheese with milk. Join now.
It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Come cheer up my nights, come cheer up my nights. It's better to have loved and lost. It's better to have loved and lost. Captain Jean-Luc Picard and never.
All right. I need some more juice with that. You guys had that playing. It sounded like crickets humping.
It did.
What are you guys? You guys are off for a Daily Show? You're off for a game? I don't know what's going on. Nake Jared's been fired promptly. Something else that's making the rounds today. Have you all seen this? Donald Trump Jr. I will say this. Donald Trump Jr.'s sons, I think, are more likable than Donald.
I think that's fair.
As far as in the public eye, people who've... Oh, and I've talked about this a lot. You don't want to rest in the laurels thinking, hey, well, we won the election. Well, Donald Trump did lose the popular vote, let's be honest. So that's a good thing. That means there's still a lot of convincing to be done. If you want 8 years and not 4, I get it. It's fun to watch people collectively lose their minds. I enjoy it as much as the next guy. But you do need to, at some point, start doing some convincing. Start presenting some compelling arguments. And I think Donald Trump's sons, if you watch some long-form videos with them, who's the one who looks like the Whoville? Which one is that? I always confuse them. There's the blonde. They both kind of, but one has dark hair, one has blonde hair.
Eric Trump is the blonde one, I think.
Right.
Yeah, the one who looks actually more like Trump.
Right.
One of them looks like Gordon Gekko.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And that's how the left perceives him. Either way, I think he has 2 sons with 4 different mothers. I don't even know how that's possible, but it's a thing. It's a thing with Donald Trump. I do think his sons are a little more palatable to people who can't stand Donald Trump himself. So his son was in a lot of hot water because he wants to basically make suppressors, silencers for firearms more accessible. And so we wrote about this at louderwithcreditor.com. If you've actually seen the story, the tweets were absurd. People, Donald Trump now wants to make murder silent. He wants to make it easier for criminals to be able to assassinate people. And Nakajed, you're actually more of the firearm enthusiast here. Do you think there's any issue that's been more sort of convoluted than the silencer suppressor issue?
No, it's up there. I think people just have this idea that it's like it is the James Bond gun going around people sleuthing in the night, just whack people off in the silence, never going, every murder going unsolved, and it's just not.
And you're painting someone's pecker in gold.
That
think that's what
usually
happens
follows.
in real life.
That follows.
I can't believe those films got away with that.
Yeah.
The stuff that they did when you go back and watch it, it's not even suggestive.
No.
Bushy galore. That's not even first off, nowhere in any language does the name Pussy Galore come through as a valid name. I've searched through the phone books.
No, the phone books are not there.
I can't believe that made it through back in the day. It was like it would be like suggestive where a towel would fall off.
Yeah.
And there'd be a steamy shower, and then the next scene, Pushy galore. I mean, there are children in this theater. We're gonna get letters. So, okay, let's get to the suppressor points. First point. If you're saying don't use the word silencer, it's a suppressor. Actually, when it was invented, the guy who created it called it a silencer. The biggest manufacturer of these items calls them silencers. So please hold your douchebaggery. I know you're gonna have some tactical people on. It's a suppressor technically. Either term is fine. Here's something that's interesting. Obviously, we have way more firearm ownership in the United States, and people in Europe, they look down. They look down on us. They have a problem with it. But silencers, when they aren't a politicized issue, people don't even consider it something that would be offensive. As a matter of fact, in the UK, you look to Scandinavian countries; they're far ahead of us on laws with suppressors and silencers. It's actually considered rude not to use a suppressor or a silencer, certainly with a rifle when you're hunting. Mm-hmm. If you have the ability to, it's kind of expected of you. So that's something that's important to note. People think the United States, we're the land of crazy guns, God, and freedom. Well, guess what? We're behind on this. Now, I'll only give you a few reasons why. The reasons they should be used, first off. Suppressors. It's not for assassination. It's not for Corleone-style assassinations. It is for protection. It's really for health reasons. If you shoot someone, if you have a home invader situation, you're going to suffer permanent hearing loss, very likely. It's incredibly common. And not only that, but people who hunt, since they have to be aware of their surroundings, they often don't wear hearing protection. When you're not at a range, a suppressor, a silencer is an incredibly valuable tool. I think a lot of people think that these things will be used in assassinations. I think Jordan pulled these clips because they think, like you said, it's a James Bond film.
Yeah.
This comes to us from, who did this on YouTube? Jordan, do you know? I think it was Military Arms Channel who we have this clip to show you. It really only reduces the sound of a gun, for those who don't know, by about 20 to 40 dB on the high end. So let's roll this clip so you can see the difference between a non-suppressed firearm and one that is. Let's set aside some myths.
It's at 160 dB.
Go.
160.
Go.
I guess we're not seeing the video. I'm just hearing gunshots in my head. That's 160
That's
dB.
160, and then this is.
That's 130.
Go.
Okay, so you hear that? It doesn't exactly sound like a field mouse. And I think Jordan has a chart up there that we can bring up. Really, if you take that level, and I think it's about 130 dB or 140 dB and higher is permanent hearing damage, right? That's what that is. Scale it back a little bit. That's what a suppressor provides you with. So it's just enough to keep you from bleeding out your eardrums, but it's still about the sound of a loud rock concert. So this idea that people are going to go off and assassinate people in the streets or cops can't track them, it's completely untrue. This is why they were made, they were classified the way that they were. And it's predicated on a lie. Democrats now want you to believe, by the way, Daily Kos even wrote about this, why suppressors should be legal. They are legal, but you have to go to a Class 3 firearm dealer. They were actually outlawed during the Great Depression because they didn't want people poaching big game. And a lot of people would argue, the Bernie socialists, that it was the sort of the bourgeoisie who wanted to live in their high towers and didn't want poor people to be able to fend for themselves and kill deer. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but it was entirely to do with silent game hunting and illegal hunting and poaching. It had nothing to do with crime. There's no statistics to show you that somehow allowing suppressors would increase crime. And add all this up, and by the way, that's why this is the current process for purchasing a suppressor. We have this up right here. It's not an easy process. It's about the same process as getting a fully automatic firearm. They've changed the laws recently. Here's the point. You add all this up, and what is it? It's an issue that wasn't politicized until a son of Donald Trump. Oh, what's happening there?
I don't know. I think it's a Skype call coming in.
Oh, do we have a Skype call coming in? Is that Shaun King?
Yeah,
I think we have Shaun.
King.
I think we have Shaun King. Do we have him? Is he there?
I think he's there.
Is he there?
I wish I could say I was happy to be here, but I felt it was a necessity. So,
I guess congratulations are in order first for your new gig in 2017. How'd you get the job at the Young Turks, by the way?
Yeah, well, I wish there was a better story about it to tell, but in actuality, I just happened to be in the YouTube lobby.
I guess that's as good a reason as any. It seems like a good match. The Young Turks deny the Armenian genocide, and you deny that you're a white guy. You're both living in the same parallel universe.
You know, that's funny, right, for a white supremacist like yourself, maybe. But no, they don't really do background checks at TYT. Plus, I think they just like the idea of hanging out with the black man. So,
but Shaun, you're not black. You know that. You're not a black man.
Yeah. How did I know, right, Stephen, that was going to come up? Your factual inaccuracies are outrageous and litigious, and they're just factually not factual, Stephen. My mom was white, that's correct, but she also happened to be like a really big whore, and I don't know who my daddy is, so I could be whatever.
No,
you know.
Shaun, no, we do know. We have pictures here. Not Jared, let's bring this up. We have pictures of you as a child. As you can clearly see here,
that's the first one there.
You're not black. That hair almost looks strawberry blonde, frankly. And here, you're clearly also not black. And there you are in your teenage phase.
Cabbage Patch Dolls from the 40s.
And you throw your mom under the... How do you throw your mom under the bus like that? Shaun, there's nothing less black than trashing your mom. Even rappers will shoot someone with one hand and hug their mom with the other. I don't know what you're thinking. You're clearly not a black man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this a part where the white man, tells me what a black man should be? Like, I shouldn't be calling my mom a whore because, what, you want the black man to dance for you? Like, like I'm your house white black guy? Dude.
All right, well, Shaun, here's something else. We know that on the police report, you filed the notorious report claiming you were the victim of a hate crime. You checked, we have this up here, a box indicating that you were Caucasian. And why are you flaring your nostrils? What is that? Don't do that. What is always with the flaring of the nostrils? In every picture. I don't know what... Okay, if the literal photographic evidence isn't enough here, we have some more pictures that would certainly insinuate you are likely not a black person. This is circumstantial. Here's a picture of you at a high school swim meet.
Yeah, I was pretty good.
You know, that you look actually good form. Here you are skiing in Aspen.
That was Crested Butte, bitch.
My apologies. And here you are at what appears to be a Nickelback concert.
Okay, see, that photo is a damn lie. I would never be caught dead at a Nickelback concert. Was Creed.
Okay, so were the Young Turks your first choice, or how did you end up there? What was the progression, Mr. King?
Yeah, well, you know, I have long respected the Young Turks and their commitment, you know, to journalistic integrity.
Actually, he did apply to other places.
Now, see, there you go with your lies again. You know.
Well, in Shaun's defense, Nake Jared, how would you even know?
Well, he applied to here, Louder with Crowder.
He applied here.
Yeah, I got his application.
You have his resume? Can we bring it up?
Yeah. Let me bring that screen.
Shaun?
Yeah, you know what? I did, in fact, apply at Louder with Crowder, right? Simply as a social experiment regarding systemic white supremacy, and congratulations, you did exactly what I thought you would do. You know, you showcase classic racism, xenophobia, biracial phobia. Your guess is as good as mine, race phobia, homophobia.
But wait, Shaun, you're gay?
Like, I could be. So, truthfully, though, without trepidation, I just put that there as a test, you know, to hedge my bets and to make sure. Dad, I done told you, get out the frame.
Want some chocolate milk?
Yeah, I want some chocolate milk. That still sounds nice. You know?
Okay, Shaun, that's uncomfortable. I hope you find what you're looking for in life. Shaun King, everybody. We have Gary Sinise coming up next. Do not join the Mug Club or be enticed by Steven Crowder's offer of a 7-day free trial. It may sound meticulous or it may sound attractive, but it is filled to the brim with white supremacy. I've been to louderwithcrowder.com/mug club. I seen it. I seen it. All right, glad to be back. The dancing is embarrassing because I admire this man, and that's not usually a problem with most of our guests. If you see him, you know who he is. Honored to have him on the first daily program. GarySiniseFoundation.org does some fantastic work. Mr. Sinise, thank you for being with us, sir.
Thank you, Stephen. Good to be with you.
No, well, look, did you hear the way he said that? It sounded so dejected.
So,
like,
yes.
It was a necessary good to be with you. That's how my wife
He
said.
got the script
at
assigned.
the beginning of the interview.
Exactly. This is what they
All
have
my
to say.
answers are written down right here in front of me.
Yes, well, that doesn't work so well with this show because some curveballs get thrown. I've known you for a while, and if at any point you want to disassociate from what I say, you can say, no, it's not true. Little known fact, I was actually introduced to Gary by, let me set it up. Andrew Breitbart, when I used to talk with him, would always say, if there were one person who I could get to run for president of the United States and I could get everyone to vote for, it would be Gary Sinise. And he would say that all the time. Before I ever met him, he was the one who introduced us. And there were two people I was ever intimidated to meet, you and Clint Eastwood, because I didn't know what to say. And you were you were needlessly nice.
Oh, well, I was happy to meet you. I'd seen some of your videos. You're hilarious. I was glad that Andrew brought you to lunch that day.
Yes. Well, Jared, we can edit that out. We don't want him admitting that he's a fan of anything that I do. Yeah. That won't do anybody any favors. So you've done so much, obviously, in film and television. That's where a lot of people know you. But now you're effectively doing almost full time, from what you were telling me, your foundation, the GarySiniseFoundation.org. For people who don't know, well, let's run a clip for people who don't know really quickly and kind of fill them in.
He wanted to be able to do things for himself. He didn't want everyone helping him in every aspect of his daily life.
So many live in total reliance on caregivers for tasks most of us take for granted.
Those are the things that I look forward to. Having that ability to be more independent.
Our RISE program was established to provide these heroes specially adapted smart homes, mortgage-free and custom-built from the ground up.
To go out and buy a regular house, I can't do that. Well, Gary Sinise Foundation, I can plan for the next 20, 30, however many years I'm blessed with.
And you can see the full promo. We'll have it up at louderwithcrowder.com. We posted some of these and had an incredible reaction. A big part of what you do is building smart homes and using technology with a lot of veterans who come home. You're kind of like the only sort of Bob Hope of today. When I think of who is closest to Bob Hope, I think of you because you've done so much of this work. What was it that put that on your heart to do something like this and with such specificity, incorporating technology in a way that's more than a photo op? It's incredibly pragmatic.
Well, I got involved with veterans back in the 80s in the Chicago area. I grew up in Chicago. I have Vietnam veterans on my wife's side of the family. I've got, my grandfather served in World War I. I've got two uncles from World War II. My dad served in the Navy. There's lots of veterans around me on my family side. And then, I was a senior in high school in 1973. That was the end of combat operations in Vietnam. I had to register for the draft, but the draft was over. And I can remember that, I was scared about the possibility of getting drafted. It was the war was going badly. Things weren't going well. I wasn't thinking too much about what was going on with our Vietnam veterans, even though they were on television every night, and the casualty reports were terrible. And then it was a few years later when I met my wife, and she introduced me to her brothers, who both had served, her sister's husband, a Vietnam veteran, and my eyes kind of opened up to what they had gone through. And so I started working locally with some Vietnam veterans groups in the Chicago area, trying to support them and help them. And then eventually I played a Vietnam veteran 10 years later. And
I was going to say, I wonder if that bought you some loyalty with them, because Lieutenant Dan is such an iconic character, or if you show up, even if you weren't there, even if you weren't obviously a veteran in that sense, if they immediately sort of identify with it. Because it does seem too, Lieutenant Dan is one of these characters. It's a rarity. In Hollywood, veterans seem to be either portrayed as one extreme, born on the 4th of July, complete objectors, or then, complete heroes. You have like Act of Valor, films like that. It seems like it's needlessly politicized in the entertainment industry sometimes. If you bring up even the word veterans, people line up on one side or the other. And I don't understand. It's one place where it seems somewhat polarizing when you can just do a lot of good.
Well, what was interesting about the Forrest Gump character, the Lieutenant Dan character, is we had never before seen a Vietnam veteran who could get over the service part of his life and the difficulty that he had coming home.
Right.
And actually be successful.
It's a good point.
Life. And Lieutenant Dan is he's a rich guy at the end. He's got a successful business. They've invested their money. He's getting married. He comes full circle.
Right.
Is able to put his war years behind him and move on. We hadn't really seen that depiction of a Vietnam veteran prior to that. We'd seen a lot of Vietnam veteran focused films.
Right.
But never before had we seen a guy come home, go through the obvious and expected anguish and anger and stuff of losing his legs and being discarded,
right?
From society and everything like that, as so many of our Vietnam veterans had. But on the other hand, there were so many that came back and were able to move on with their lives. And that was Lieutenant Dan. We were able to see him put that all in perspective and move on. And that, of course, is the story that we want for everyone who served, especially folks that get injured. We want them to be able to move through that and be successful. And that's one of the things I've tried to do with starting a nonprofit and trying to help our veterans.
And that's a great point, actually, about Lieutenant Dan. It seems like people, certainly in the entertainment industry, they say, well, if you make a film seem it's needlessly patriotic, and then you're encouraging, sending our kids off to war. And then there's a flip side. Well, if you deal with PTSD at all, you make it seem as though they're too weak to handle it. And you have these two factions. Like, listen, it's a reality. A lot of troops come back, whether they're injured, whether they're wounded, or they have PTSD. But a lot of them, having had a lot of them on this show, both active and veterans, like most of them, move past it because they're strong people. That's a big reason they're in the military, and they tend to be pretty successful. And that's a story you don't see with a lot of. Remember, there was a spell. I don't know if you remember that, Jared. In the there was like Redacted and Rendition, and just really there was a spell of really anti-military films. I don't know if you remember this, Gary. And none of them made any money. But it seemed at that point like it was much more purpose and agenda-driven than even profit-driven. There was a spell there where it was like nonstop.
Yes, that was at the height of the Iraq War back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, right around in there. There were a whole series of films that came out. Redacted is especially.
It was rough,
despicable, but
yeah.
Why make a movie in the middle of the Iraq War that shows how brutal a couple of knuckleheads can be?
Right.
That really offended me. I mean. It was based on some true events, but why make that picture when we still had 150,000 troops serving in Iraq honorably and trying to do the right thing and serving their country? So that's one of the reasons that the GI Film Festival started. It popped up 10 years ago. And Laura and Brandon Millett, who started the GI Film Festival, felt very similar to me, that they were feeling very badly that so many movies were being made depicting soldiers as people that were either crazy or couldn't function or whatever. And so they started a film festival to highlight, service work, service-oriented military films that really showed our troops in a positive way and serving honorably.
And then the entertainment industry doesn't necessarily.
I got very involved with the GI Film Festival because my mission at that time, I was going to Iraq during that period. I was visiting with our troops. I was seeing what they were doing. And I saw a lot of people serving honorably, and I would come home and talk about it on television and radio and wherever I could and just try to counter that that message that was coming
Right.
through our media that everything was going terrible and the troops were all like the ones that were serving at Abu Ghraib, who mistreated some of the prisoners there. They were getting all the headlines, and nobody else who was
I
serving
remember that.
honorably was.
Yeah, I remember Abu Ghraib, and I haven't done as much as you, obviously, but I went and entertained the troops. I remember Guantanamo Bay was a real eye-opener for me because it was not what we had been sold at all when I went. And of course, they're consummate professionals, right? The troops there were like, well, we can't talk on camera, and they would have these stories. There was a lady who came in and had a cocktail thrown on her by a terrorist. Cocktail, by the way, for people who don't know, is any bodily fluid you can put in a jar and throw it at the woman. And she was actually, boom, you're out, because she threw a glass of water back on a terrorist who threw unspeakable things on her. And they would say this stuff off camera. They'd be like, we wish we could reset it. You can see it's not what people think, but we can't. This is our job. We got to go and keep our head down and do it. And so it's important for people like you who have a voice to be able to speak up, because a lot of people don't realize how tied their hands are in speaking out, and it's their perception. The perception of them is entirely almost how the entertainment industry and media depicts them for many Americans, for better or worse.
Yeah, there was a movie that I got involved with back then called Brothers at War, and it was a documentary, and it showed family life in the military, and it was a buddy of mine who followed his two brothers over to Iraq who were serving in the Army. And it really just, it wasn't an anti-war movie or a pro-war movie. It just showed military life of a military family and what they were going through during this particular time serving in Iraq. And it was, I actually called the GI Film Festival up and said, let's get it into the festival. And it did very well. It actually got a very good run in the theaters.
Yeah.
It had a television run. And it really sort of countered that sort of military person that was being depicted in Hollywood at that time. I was disappointed with some of those films. But, people can make movies. They're movies. And, the Forrest Gump was made. And what was interesting about that is that it showed how brutal that war was.
Sure.
It showed, a catastrophic injury. It showed what it was like for that service member, Lieutenant Dan, to come home and what happened to him when, he came home to a nation that had turned its back on our Vietnam veterans. But that also there was life ahead, and that they could move on beyond that injury. And that's what we want for everybody who's serving in the military. I'm very, very involved with the Disabled American Veterans Organization. They actually brought me to their convention in 1994 when the movie came out, and I've been involved with them ever since. My foundation supports them. And my foundation kind of grew out of this mission that I've been on to support our veterans through various nonprofits and by volunteering for the USO and going to the hospitals and raising money for different charities and everything. Eventually, it just manifested itself into the creation of my own foundation, which is a part of my mission, my overall mission to serve and give back. Service work, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's been a great blessing to me. I felt kind of called after September 11th to use what I have to do some good, and that's been a blessing.
And not to cut you off, GarySiniseFoundation.org, but for people who are watching right now, it was hard to get Gary to come on here. It's like pulling teeth to get him to go out there and talk about his foundation. He's a guy who does it in quiet. You kind of learn a lot about a guy in how he acts when people aren't looking. The guy could ride off into the sunset, do whatever he wants, and he's still doing this. He's still helping and very, very hands-on involved. So I know you can't necessarily sing your own praises there, Gary, but I'll do it for you. Speaking of brutal, you have to be the judge, celebrity judge here of our dance contest. You know about this.
Yes, I've heard about it. Yes.
I apologize for what you are about to see, but thank you so much for taking part. Not Gay Jared, let's get this going. Gary Sinise, celebrity judge.
Gary Sinise, celebrity judge.
All right, so Gary, we had people send in their Crowder dance moves for Going Daily to bumps on the program, and we told them that you would be the one who decides the mega prize. Not Gay Jared. He's able to see program, right? He's able to see the dance moves? I realized.
Think so.
Okay, let's make sure he's able to see these dance moves so that in all of their splendor, Gary can decide which one deserves.
Give me 10 seconds. I can make sure he sees them.
Okay, Gary, I'll give him 10 seconds. See, Gary, this is why when you're on the first show, half the staff gets fired. And then if you come back for the second show,
This is true.
it's never the same people twice. This is what happens. So Gary Sinise Foundation.
I heard you're gonna have Dennis on, huh?
We're going to have Dennis Miller on tomorrow, and that's another issue where either he's going to Skype or we may just have him do a landline. And then I think we have...
Can you see that?
What's that? Oh, there you go, you and Dennis. Yeah, he... I used to do his show, actually, when he was out there, and it was one of my favorite shows. Look at that. Look at that. We should have had you on together. It could have been
They're all
magical.
buddies.
Could have been Bing and Danny Kaye going on, where we could have had Sinise and Dennis. He's done some stuff for the troops too, actually. I believe he's done some USO tours, as many comics do. Funny enough, for a lot of comics, left or right, they just do it, and that's one issue that kind of brings a lot of them together. I've seen tours with like Kathleen Madigan, I think, and Nick DiPaolo. So you've had left, right, centrist, and they just go down there and entertain the troops and sleep and. Not great living conditions. No. So, okay, Gary, we're going to come right back. Jared will be able to get you the dance program because these people will be brokenhearted if you don't pick a winner. GarySiniseFoundation.org. Thank you so much, Mr. Sinise. We will be right back. Right, Jared?
Right.
Otherwise, he's not going to rehire you.
It's not going to happen.
He's not going to rehire you at all. Is my mic on? There we go. Stephen, how often do you hear me do live reads? Very rare. The hosts, they sell their soul for any live read. We do it a couple times, maybe. I don't know, not that. Maybe not even maybe. Maybe not maybe. Listen, we appreciate you watching. I know there have been some technical glitches tonight, but listen, we've had an overwhelming amount of support for the CRTV right now, subscription daily, the Mug Club, louderwithcrowder.com/Mug Club. Right now, there's a 7-day free trial going on. So today is free. Thursday is always free. Still on iTunes, still on YouTube. The daily articles at louderwithcrowder.com. But if you want to watch the daily show, if you want to watch this grow, you know, today we have Sinise, tomorrow we have Dennis Miller, we have some other big names coming forward. But if you also want to watch us hire new people, names in the lineup, people who you watch on YouTube, people who you love and support. Here's the deal. YouTube, social media is squeezing a lot of people right now, particularly voices of dissent. You know that, particularly voices of dissent on the right. So we want to get as much content out there, make it free as often as possible, but we can't be reliant on it. And just since people have joined the Mug Club, not gay Jared's been here for this. Remember when it was just you and I?
You and I for a long time.
It was just you and I in a den.
Yes.
Because it was syndicated to radio and it was based out of that little Ann Arbor, Detroit station.
Yeah.
And now in this room we have, we've expanded the hires, we've doubled them since the Mug Club has launched. So we have Jared, Edward, Jordan, Scott, Lacey, Francine, Aaron, and the site we have Courtney, Casey, Brodigan. Did I already say Corey? Corey. If I'm missing anyone, I apologize, but we've been able to expand, employ people. And by the way, we're not talking about Fight for 15. They're all making good livings, a good job here on this show, creating content for you. If you want to see it keep growing, if you want to see the content, the quality get better, just subscribe. If you're a student, enter in student, military, enter in military. If you're a veteran, enter in the promo code veteran. It becomes $69. That's less than $6 a month. If you can't afford it or you can't do that right now, we appreciate you anyway, and we are happy to give you the once a week free show and all the clips. So louderwithcrowder.com/Mug Club right now. Only right now, 7-day free trial. You can decide if the daily Crowder Show is for you, or if you hate your country and maybe you're a xenophobe. I don't know, but I would encourage you. To subscribe. But you could hate America too. So. That's the sound of the final segment. That's the sound of Not Gay Jared being dead, perhaps. You gonna keep going with that? You gonna Daniel Day-Lewis that thing?
I'm not dead.
You're really getting the character. Wow.
You look worried there. You look worried.
I did look worried for a second, but that's namely because that chair is expensive, and I thought I heard something break. Thank you so much for being with. Listen, I know a lot of people really like the wrap-up segment that we do in the once a week show. So it used to be 3 hours. Now we're doing an hour every day, 4 days a week, actually. And then Not Gay Jared has his own show with Courtney and behind-the-scenes access to loudwithcrowder.com. So it's changing a little bit. We'll do some extended segments on Thursday with your calls. We have the ability to take your calls now, reading your tweets. And those closing thoughts are going to be once a week because it's kind of a culmination of everything that occurs during the week. But I will tell you this. Right now, I think this week it's going to have to do with elitism and Meryl Streep being an awful human being, also an overrated actress. Emma Thompson would have done it better. Always go with Emma Thompson. She said, even as like Nanny McPhee, you're like, this is terrible, but I buy Emma Thompson doing it. I know people are going to say she's to the left. I don't care. I'm just talking about acting ability. Meryl Streep sucks. Emma Thompson, good. Gary had to go.
Yeah.
Gary's an important guy. Gary Sinise, obviously, big name, really great guy. I'm so glad Andrew Breitbart, the man, not the trademark, introduced us, was genuinely one of the nicest people I have ever met. And as Andrew always said, if Gary ran for president tomorrow, I would vote him in, but he was very patient. We couldn't get these clips up for him.
I hope our show doesn't ruin his up-and-coming potential success in life.
Well, with Shaun King, that's a distinct possibility. He's a tough act to follow, namely because the act is fraudulent. So it's kind of Andy Kaufman. People don't know if you're pulling a joke on them. Only he's the dude dressed as a dude disguised as another dude. He's Caucasian is the point here, ladies and gentlemen. Do try and keep up. So we do have some dances. We had hashtag Crowder Dance Moves. We're giving away 50 free mug clubs this week. 50 free, not a free day trial. Not a 7-day trial, 50 free mug clubs. And then the one winner we're going to pick tonight, we've narrowed it down to 3, gets not only a mug club for himself, he gets a full merchandise package, a lock of Not Gay Jared's hair so he can be framed for serious crimes in the future, and a private conference with us, which you can take, but you don't have to. We can also just have Ruben do it because you might like that better. So we've narrowed it down to 3. Do we have the top 3 dance moves that we're sending? You guys sent in hundreds of your dance moves. Here's candidate number 1. Let's see what it is. Child labor is always a crowd pleaser.
It is.
How many are there? What are they, Mormon?
Distinct possibility.
Okay, so that was cute. A lot of people using their kids and dogs, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But this was the most creative use of children.
There was one with dogs and guns. I thought it was going to be possibly a winner, but it was a small dog. So I had to give it +5 for guns, like -55 for...
Yeah, you can't, homosexual small dog. That was pretty good. Okay, that's candidate number 1. And you can tweet us, tweet me at @SCrowder, tweet at @NotGayJared, and we're going to pick the winner who we think is best. Here is number 2, which I thought was actually pretty creative. Let's roll this clip. Okay, he's digging. He's doing the pogo dig dance.
Dig.
It's good.
Yep.
Tosses the wait, what's he doing here?
Oh, what's going? No.
Waterboarding! What? Don't even. Here's the thing that's funny about that.
That's what you dance
you
at that point.
You can see while he's doing that dance and getting, even though it's a fake waterboarding, he immediately regrets the decision. Do you see him like
just like
his face like,
what did I do?
Oh, this lock of hair better be worth it. Hint, it's not. Jared's lack of hemoglobin makes his hair brittle. We have one more entry.
One more entry.
Did we save the best for last?
I think we saved the best
for last. Okay, let's see who the winner is.
Oh, he
got his buddies in on it. All right. This is awesome.
Is that Kevin Smith in the background?
Okay, all right. At X Lankix, you win. You win. You get a mug club. Actually, we get a mug club. Let's get a mug club out for all of his buddies there too. That was fantastic.
That was
really creative. By the way, he can maybe teach you how to use a TriCast.
Could. I saw one in there. I saw it in there. We'll be calling you, buddy.
So X Lankix, Lankix, whatever. Thank you. You have mug clubs coming your way, merchandise package, and lock of Not Gay Jared's hair. And if you want to do a conference call and get on and talk to us about, well, you don't have to. That sounds so self-important, but people ask for it. Thank you so much. Sorry we couldn't show all the dance moves. We really appreciate the outpouring of support. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be with you every night. We want to be the show you go to bed with. We want to be the show where you can hear about the news but laugh, unwind, and hopefully have some great guests, some great conversations despite the technical glitches tonight. The upgrades come with glitches. Tomorrow we have Dennis Miller and the Russian hacker. I think, right?
Yeah.
Is that who we have?
Yeah, that's who we got.
Are we confirmed?
I'm confirmed. I'm confirming as we speak.
Dennis Miller, we
Yep.
have him for sure. Real Dennis Miller, not like Shaun King Dennis Miller. And the Russian hacker tomorrow. Thank you so much. Get your 7-day free trial. LouderWithCreditor.com/Mug Club. See you tomorrow. Dennis Miller, Russian hacker. Love you.